Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi and I'm back with another video. This time today we're tackling abstract questions. Now, for a lot of people, these are questions that could come across as very tricky, or it's questions that don't always have the right answer or don't always have the exact answer that we're looking for. So I know a lot of recruiters still use these abstract questions, and I actually don't blame them, because these questions are not necessarily to eliminate you, but to also see how you think, your thinking process, and how you process certain things, especially when it comes to ambiguity. A lot of companies always worry about people that cannot necessarily deal with environments that keep on changing. And in some cases, as recruiters, we will then, or as HR professionals, will then ask these questions to try and understand, if you were presented with something like that, how do you normally deal with it? Now, these are also more like problem-solving type of questions, because the idea is to see how you problem solve. It's not necessarily to say we're trying to trick you and to try and eliminate you, but it's to see how you problem solve certain things and how you deal with some of those things where you don't necessarily have the right answers or the right scenarios that are always presented. Now, the key to abstract questions is that you need to try and be practical, simplified, and also just think, if a friend of mine was asking me the same type of questions, how would I answer them? Forget the interview. And yes, I know it's very difficult to say to somebody, forget the fact that you're in an interview scenario. But the idea is to forget that you're in an interview in a scenario and try by all means to simplify, that answer in such a way that if somebody was to listen to you, they can try and implement whatever you've come up with. Now, today also the idea is to try and give you some of the examples. It's not just to talk about the abstract questions to say they do come and you need to figure out how to actually answer them, but it's also to give you examples of some of these abstract questions. Now, there are some abstract questions that, unfortunately, even if you were to look at them from a psychological point of view, do not necessarily always make sense. And unless you are a trained psychologist, asking these questions will not necessarily get you the type of results. Now, these are questions like, if you were an animal, what animal would you be and why? The reason why it's a very difficult question is that a lot of people tend to go for, I'd be a lion because, I'm fearless and I want to go out there and change the world. Now, that's the type of question, the answers that you get. And unfortunately, in that, you can't really penalize somebody for assuming or saying that they are a lion. Like, why would you do that? I mean, they are a lion in their own eyes, and it's a perfectly good answer for them to actually give you. The second one that I've had is, if you're a superhero, what superhero would you be and why? Now, in this one, unfortunately, for example, you'll have people that don't actually like superheroes, or they don't even watch superheroes. And then you start having people like the power to read people's minds. And I think the reason why people do that is because in that scenario, they're hoping that they can read your mind and understand what your thinking is about the answers that they've already previously given you. So that's why it's very important that with every abstract question that you throw at a candidate, it is easier for you to then defend the decision as to why you've actually asked that question. And I've come up with about 3 different abstract questions that, I've had people actually ask, and I've had some that I've also asked myself, and normally I'll also give you the reason why I do ask those questions that way. The first one is, and this one I heard it recently, that said, how many golf balls are in the air in the world right now? Now, for a lot of people, the moment you hear that question, you're like, how the hell am I supposed to know that? That's the first thing that comes to your mind, is to say, you're asking me how many golf balls are in the air right now. I'm definitely not a magician. There is no way I would know how many golf balls are in the air at the moment right now. Now, that is not the scenario that you need to present for yourself. And this is how you actually answer that question. How many golf balls are in the air has got no exact answer. However, there's a thinking process that you go to actually answering that question. So here's how you normally answer that question. First thing that you say is, okay, cool. Right now, it's in the middle of a pandemic. I'm currently shooting this video at night, and the assumption is within Europe and Africa, almost everybody's sleeping. So I'm going to assume that there's not many people trying to play golf right now. So that basically eliminates Europe and eliminates Africa. And then from there, I'm saying, okay, so then you have Australia. The assumption is now it's still around 5 in the morning. So I'm hoping, or I'm assuming that in some of the states within Australia, not many people are actually awake at the moment. So I'm going to assume that if there's probably, let's say, about less than 100 people playing golf at the moment. And if there's less than 100 people playing golf, let's say the assumption is 50. And if there's 50 people playing golf and we're in the middle of a pandemic, I can always assume that 5% of those guys are actually, the ones that have just hit the ball right now. So if it's 5%, you say 50, and then you start playing around with the numbers. And the nice thing about that is that you're showing the person your thinking process. And then you then say, okay, so I'm assuming also that it's a Sunday. So if there's people playing golf, it'll probably be in the US as well as in Canada, right? So that is how you play around with these answers. It's not about saying to somebody, cool, this is basically the exact number of how many people are playing golf, because that's what a lot of candidates tend to do. They tend to just jump straight into the answer to say, when we ask them to say how many people are playing golf at the moment, your first instinct is to say, let's see, 50. How did you get to 50? Take the interviewers through a process of how you got to the 50. So that's one of the examples of the abstract questions that you could get from somebody. The second one, I think this one I probably maybe stole it from Lyndon. I used to work, or I used to recruit for Lyndon back in South Africa. And one of the things that he used to ask, or I don't know if it's him, sorry if it's not him, but one of the things that used to come up was to say, let's say today is a Friday, it's a Friday afternoon. How much fuel is in all the petrol stations across the whole of Sandton? Sandton is a suburb in Joburg. So, and also, once again, this is a question that we used to ask a lot of business analysts. And what people tend to do is the first instinct to say there's 3,000 liters of petrol or fuel in all the petrol stations. And the question that we then have is like, okay, so why did you give that number? What's happening and how did you get to that number? Now, why this question is actually very important from a business analyst point of view is to say, as a business analyst, one of the things that you actually normally get is a business coming to you and saying, this is what I want you to build for me, or this is what I want IT to go and build. As an analyst, the first thing that you need to try and understand is, why do you want to do that? Is there something that's different that you're looking at? Because we might have another system that could do exactly what you're looking for. So the question is why. So if somebody asks you to say how much fuel is in all the petrol station in Sandton, the idea is to first ask the first question that says, why do you want to know? Now, the reason why you also ask why you want to know is because it also helps you with the method of information gathering. If, for example, I then come back to you and say, the reason I want to know is because I want to open another garage or another petrol station in Sandton or in Bern or in Zurich or wherever it is. Now, that means I can't go to the other petrol station guys and say to them, oh, by the way, how much fuel is in all your tanks on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m.? And then if they ask me, why do you want to know? And I'm like, no, because we want to build another competing, petrol station next to you. They're not going to give you that answer. So that's helping you figure out, okay, if I was to gather that type of information, who do I ask and how do I ask these people? And then also trying to understand from these guys to say, when do they refill these tanks that they've got for petrol point of view? So it allows you to first, number one, understand why does the person want to know? And that's the first thing that you do as a business analyst. Now, if you're a business analyst and I say to you, I want you to build me a clocking system that allows to tell me whenever people leave that desk. And the first thing that you say is, okay, cool. Let me go speak to the developers and we're going to build that. You failed in two aspects. Number one is to say, why do you want to know? Like, why do you want to build something like that? Is it because of liability issues? Is it this? Is that? And it also helps you in making sure that when you explain things to the people that are going to develop that, they're able to understand why you're building something like that. My third lucky question that I normally ask a lot of people is actually where I need them to explain to me how they get to certain answers or how they explain certain things to certain people. So let's assume, or the first question that I will ask them is to say, so what is your favorite meal? And most people will say pasta, or they'll say meat, or they'll say chocolate, or whatever they might come up with. And then it's like, okay, fantastic. So those are the things that you love the most. Awesome. So now let's assume that you've got a friend that's got no sense of smell, no sense of touch, taste, and cannot see. The only thing that they've got is touch as well as hearing. So they only have these two, touch and hearing. They can't see whatever you're talking about. They can't smell it, nor can they taste it. So those are the three senses that are missing. Now, please explain to this person, what chocolate tastes like, or what, pasta tastes like. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, okay, that's easy. Oh man, chocolate tastes like, it's sweet, it's this, and that's the first thing they always say. And you always say, okay, cool. Sweet talks about taste. So this person doesn't have the taste. So that means they're not gonna know what you're talking about. Or some of the guys will say, oh man, pasta, the smell of pasta. And you're like, no, but remember, once again, they can't smell the pasta. So the way people then explain it is normally based on what it tastes like to them. And the easiest way to answer this one is to actually say, cool, ask your friend to say, what is the one memory that you hold very dearly to you? What is the one memory that takes you to a happy place? And some of the people will say, I remember, or the feeling of just being able to feel the sun come into my face, or being able to feel the sand through my toes when I go to the beach, and just hearing that sound. For me, that's the highlight of my life. Then you take whatever your taste is and link that taste to that person's, feel good moment. Is to say, okay, so this is how now chocolate tastes. Chocolate is the same as early morning when you're walking on the beach and you can hear the waves as they hit onto the rocks, and just that sound and that awesome feeling is what chocolate tastes like to me. So you're relating the answer of how it feels to you to that person's feel good moment, because remember, the two are linked in that sense that you're now making this person want to taste this thing, even though they can't taste it, but you're making them want to eat it because it is in relation to their feel good moment. So it's about being able to say, how do you take something that seemed so difficult, simplify it for the next person, and make sure that you use their own scenarios to explain that to them so that they would want to do something like that. Now, as I said, the reason why we do this, or the reason why we ask these questions, is to make sure that we see how you process certain things. And for a lot of people, processing this question is actually one of the most important things, is to be able to say, you have an environment that you've been presented with, you have no other tools. How do you get around getting answers for that environment? And that, for me, is how you actually answer abstract questions. Once again, guys, please share this with so many of your friends. And remember, we're trying to pay it forward. Share as much information as you want. If you have questions, please share them with me in the link below. So just type your questions here. And I do try very much to respond to everybody that's actually written anything to me. And if you're still watching at the end of this, please, thank you very much for watching throughout the whole thing. And I do hope that this has helped you, and this will also help some of your friends. And once again, Top of the Morning with Tshidi, and I'll see you again in the next video.